Imagine this: navigating a ship through a fierce storm where the winds howl strong and the waves go so high and they just crash onto you unpredictably. Now picture this: guiding yourself through a maze of ideas, endless branches, but you can't choose a direction. Or think of your mind as a high-speed train racing through a tunnel with so many different stops, each stop an idea, but you can't choose to stop at any of these ideas. Your focus shifts from thought to thought while your emotions swing wildly. Pretty chaotic, right? Well, that's reality for someone that's living with ADHD and bipolar disorder. It's pretty chaotic to even deal with and making sure that you can function. But it's even harder to lead with these conditions. But it wasn't impossible for me. I've been able to do it. But my journey was filled with perseverance. I was able to embrace leadership throughout my university experience, but it didn't always come easy. Let's talk a little bit about some stereotypes that I associated with ADHD and bipolar disorder. First of all, ADHD is associated with the lack of discipline. It's sometimes perceived as laziness or a lack of willpower, but we overlook the neurological differences that affect our focus and organization. People also see it as an inability to focus, that we just can't focus, completely misappropriating what, hyperfocus is. People also see it as irresponsibility. ADHD is a sign of irresponsibility, unreliability, when in reality, it reflects a different approach to managing tasks and responsibilities. Bipolar disorder is often oversimplified. Sometimes people just call it uncontrollable mood swings. The condition is frequently reduced to erratic behavior, failing to really recognize the deeper, more nuanced aspects of the disorder, including its deep impact on cognition and emotional stability. People also just think of it as extreme behavior. People with bipolar disorder are sometimes labeled as dramatic or overly emotional. You don't really consider the genuine and debilitating nature of their conditions. People also see them as people that are incapable for stability. There's a notion with people with bipolar disorder can't maintain stable relationships or jobs. This is very limiting. Now, all of these stereotypes come down to limitations. But these limitations became my greatest strengths. They've ignited my creativity, sharpened my resilience, and deepened my empathy, pushing me to lead in ways that defy convention and break boundaries. My story today isn't just about surviving these labels, but it's about dismantling them. It's about proving that the very challenges that set us apart are often the keys to unlocking our potential. Let me tell you a bit about my childhood. Do you guys remember that one kid in class who would never stop walking around? Who was always interrupting the class and always talking too much? That was me. I was always restless, but despite this restlessness, if I was really interested in something, I was able to excel. My teachers would often tell my parents that I had limitless potential, but maybe I could try not talking so much. And then when I became older, I couldn't understand why, but life started getting harder. All that potential seemed to vanish. I couldn't keep up with my responsibilities, and in my early teens, I realized my mood was getting pretty unpredictable. I would experience super highs and then deep, deep lows where I felt so worthless I couldn't even get out of bed. By the time I started college, it all got so overwhelming that I finally saw a psychiatrist. And at 16, I was finally diagnosed with ADHD. This was so devastating, and literally 3 weeks later, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I could feel all that potential vanish, and all of my aspirations just seemed so out of hand. I was disappointed of myself, and focusing on college in an academic or social sense just felt nearly impossible. I spent most of my time in a pretty deep depression. And I was desperate to find a way out of this constant battle of focus and mood. In the midst of all this turmoil, I knew I had to find a way out. 2021 was the year I started Monash. I was 17, I had good expectations. And I set some really simple goals for myself. Go to my classes, make some friends, and try to have a healthy work-life balance. But as time went on, all of these really simple goals felt nearly impossible. I was barely attending classes, and if I did, I was thinking about 100 other things. And I made some friends, but given how unstable and how drained I felt all the time, I found myself putting on a face that was more like a mask. I showed them the version of me that I thought they would like to see, and I never felt genuine, and a part of me forgot how to be genuine. I was ashamed, and some of my friends knew about my ADHD and my bipolar disorder, but I never spoke about it because I didn't want it to label me. My mental health was at an all-time low this year, and the worst part for me was when my parents first heard about my diagnosis, and I couldn't help but see the disappointment and hear the disappointment in their voice. All that limitless potential gone, straight to waste. Towards the end of the year, everything just kind of blew up in my face. I was really hard on myself for not being able to achieve these really simple goals. And at this point in time, I wasn't seeing my therapist anymore because she just reminded me of what I couldn't be. And I didn't see how that was helping. I knew things couldn't keep going the way they were because it was not healthy at all. So one random day, I was talking to a friend that I've known since I was about 10 years old. I was talking particularly about how my life felt so much in disarray after my diagnosis. And then he said something to me that really stuck with me, which felt so simple, but it really hit me like a ton of bricks. He said to me that my diagnosis never changed me. It didn't change anything about me, but it gave me the vocabulary to understand the trajectory that I've now been put on. It was so simple, but it really made me realize that I was looking at things differently. Instead of an obstacle, I just had to take another route to my goal. And it was up to me to really understand what this knowledge would mean for me. Instead of seeing it as a lid on my potential anymore, I knew that it was just a pair of glasses that would help me see differently. And I needed to accept that. I'm not normal, and I'm never gonna be normal. My medication also really helped me at this time, but something that really helped was help that I got from my friends and my family. If you have a loved one, your help is something that is so integral for them. Yeah, so here are some things that you can do to help people with ADHD or bipolar disorder in your lives. Really take the time to understand them and educate yourselves about the challenges and strengths associated with these conditions. Knowledge fosters empathy and helps in creating supportive environments. For instance, understanding that ADHD isn't just people being lazy, but a different cognitive processing style can really help you offer better support. One of these ways is by offering practical support. Assist with organizing and planning when needed. If you have a friend that has ADHD, simple gestures like helping with scheduling or providing them reminders can significantly alleviate some stress for someone like that. If you have a friend with bipolar disorder, check in with them more often. If they're going through a mood fluctuation, this might really help. Also, make sure that the people you surround yourself with create an inclusive environment that really fosters an environment that values diversity and inclusivity. When you're in the workplace or in an educational setting, make sure that there are structures in place to accommodate people with cognitive and emotional needs. This might be flexible deadlines, quiet workspaces, or access to other mental health resources. Also, be patient with your friends. Recognize that there will be good days, really good days, and really bad days. Approach your interactions with them with patience and compassion and really understand that managing these conditions are a continuous process and an endless journey that we are on. When you judge us, you're just putting undue pressure on someone that already has so much on them. Last but not least, also make sure that you advocate for mental health awareness. If you're in a workplace and you see a little event that's taking place for mental health awareness, take part in that. Show your friends pieces of support in little ways or even big ways. Promote mental health awareness and advocate for better resources and policies. Support initiatives that aim to improve understanding and reduce stigma surrounding mental health. By taking these small steps, you contribute to creating a more inclusive and supportive society. Your efforts might seem so small, but they can really help individuals with ADHD or bipolar disorder feel valued, understood, and empowered to reach their full potential. Now let's talk a little bit more about my journey and how I embrace my strengths. So, with the new understanding that I've had, I started changing my approach. Instead of hating myself for not being able to focus on things, I started using my train of thought for my creativity. I was able to think outside the box, and I tried learning material that I was genuinely interested in, and I started doing really good in my classes. I also had a pretty good awareness of what my manic episodes and what my depressive episodes were like, so I had a better time dealing with them. And the people that I surrounded myself with really helped me hold myself accountable, and they didn't just know about my struggles and how I was experiencing them. They really helped me keep my boat afloat when things were out of control. But more or less, things were under control. But I needed a challenge. I needed to know that I wasn't just mediocre and I wasn't just keeping things under control. That's when I decided to run for a leadership position. I ended up getting this position, and the reality sunk in so fast. I didn't have the breathing room that I once did. I wouldn't be able to pause and reevaluate my situation because things were on a time constraint. I felt really overwhelmed. But then I realized I've been overwhelmed for the most part of my life. My struggles in the past had given me so much resilience. The ADHD that I used to think hindered my potential became my greatest strength, and it helped me solve problems in ways others could never think of. I was determined to break the stereotype that ADHD and bipolar disorder were just hindrances. I wasn't just someone with ADHD and bipolar disorder anymore. I was someone with ADHD and bipolar disorder. Leadership was challenging, but I continued in that direction. I had a lot of fun, and I led an amazing team of people that were able to create a lot of helpful policies that helped a lot of students. Today, you can find me in the theater club, directing our final production. So today I stand before you, not as a person defined by my stereotypes, but as someone who has used these experiences to fuel my passions, to overcome challenges, and rewrite my narrative to achieve my goals. My journey isn't just something that's taught me to break through stereotypes. It's not just about defying expectations, but it's about redefining what is possible. If I can turn my struggles into strengths, then so can you. So here's what I want to ask all of you to do. Take the stereotypes that define you, break them, and use the pieces to build something that is so extraordinarily yours. Your story, no matter how complex or simple or challenging, has the power to inspire, transform, and make a difference. Thank you so much for coming to my TED Talk.